Hell is Us begins when you wake up in a dilapidated police interrogation room, face to face with a wildly disfigured detective. He says the truth serum with which you've been injected will begin taking effect soon. When it does, you'll be telling him why, when, and how you snuck into the hermit state of Hadea. This micronation has spent the last few years ravaged by an increasingly violent civil war, but complications compounded when an otherworldly anomaly appeared and began spitting hundreds of aggressive entities known as the Hollow out into what little of the country now remains. Your truth serum kicks in and you fade out again. This time, you awaken in Hadea armed with only a compass and a foreboding sense of dread. Time to start exploring and work out the clues for what happened and why you're involved, because Canadian studio Rogue Factor isn't going to hold your hand with Hell is Us and proudly refuses to give you much help at all.
Hell is a hermit state destroyed by violent civil war.
During a preview at Rogue Factor's office in Montreal, General Manager Yves Bordelot and Creative Director Jonathan Jacques-Belletête were keen to highlight their on-site recording studio and team of about 55 creatives working on the game as we make our way to a forebodingly dark meeting room. We're here to play a few hours of the game, and as we take our seats, the team passes out notebooks and pens. Jacques-Belletête explains that Hell is Us seeks to define a term the Rogue Factor team has coined: player-plattering. He says fatigue with open-world games and a yearning for the adventure games of the 90s before players were handed a story on a silver platter was the driving force behind the decision to purposefully withhold information unless players seek it out. Hell is Us encourages exploration and reflection by eliminating traditional forms of assistance throughout its winding, increasingly grim narrative. You'll find no quest log, no waypoints, nothing to direct you on where to go next, except vague hints from the locals and your sense of direction. You'll need to be cautiously curious about the world around you as you explore. You are trying to infiltrate a small country with a civil war and a monster problem after all. The more you seek to learn about the world, the more jarring backstories and startling anomalies you'll discover, and it's not long before you're not sure if the humans or the monsters are a bigger threat. The game relies heavily on atmospheric horror to set the stage before introducing you to the meat of the mystery. What happened in Hadea? What sparked the civil war between Serbians and Palamists? And just what are these hollows wandering between the sparsely inhabited ruins of what used to be thriving towns? You speak with the few remaining humans you meet in a series of dialogue choices, allowing you to press as much or as little as you'd like. When I sit down with Jacques-Belletête, Bordelot, and Hell is Us audio director Antoine Vachon to talk about the game, Jacques-Belletête tells me the Hadean Civil War of fiction was inspired by the all-too-real Serbian Civil War of the 1990s. I mention how uniquely unsettled I felt walking into protagonist Rémi's hometown after a bleak, exhausting journey to be welcomed by graffiti of a Serbian family tree at the entrance. Humanoid figures hung from barren branches of literal tree. Jacques-Belletête, though, confirms that this inclusion was inspired by a real wartime image, with Serbian simply changed to Serbian for the game. Rémi was born here in Hadea before his mother smuggled him to Canada at the start of the Civil War, telling him only to never return. At 18, he joins a Canadian peacekeeping mission to Hadea and goes AWOL during one of his deployments, seeking to learn the truth of this hermit home state and hopefully reunite with his parents if they're still alive.
Hell is the horrifying monsters that want to kill you along the way.
Outside the human horror element behind the violence obscuring what even started the Civil War, you'll need to fight hollow monsters haunting the ruins of the country. Jacques-Belletête says the team wants Hell is Us to be an even split between exploration and melee combat, and both felt seamless as I dove into the game. I talked to an old man near where I woke up in Hadea who told me to follow the sound of wind chimes when I left his house, a trail that led me to a mortally wounded soldier. He tells me his platoon is fighting for their lives in the ruins below and that he barely made it out. After Rémi wanders through a narrow and winding series of dim, dusty stairwells leading down into the ruins, the first hollow appears suddenly as he rounds an otherwise innocuous corner, with no clue something is coming other than a nearby save point. Though a mysterious warrior in a red mask swoops in and kills this hollow for you, they lose their life in the process. You take the fallen fighter's sword and helpful combat drone, and it's immediately up to you to learn to fend off the creatures in hopes of making it across Hadea with your life. Sure hope you are watching the cutscene where the warrior dies, since that was the bulk of your fighting tutorial. The first hollow you meet spits a red, angry ball at you from the hollow inside its chest, one that remains tethered to the monster itself via umbilical cord. Both the core and the hollow attack Rémi, but you need to handle the core before the hollow actually takes damage and can be slain. To do so, you'll have a series of melee weapons. In that first section, I barely survived my encounters with irate, immediately aggressive hollows, but it makes sense since those seem to be infested with rage. Hollows have 4 distinct patterns, which appear to coincide with the 4 emotional themes in the game. While jarring to encounter, the striking saturation of the 4 feelings contained within the hollows are the only real colors to speak of in the game. Hellblade is as dark visually as it is thematically, with a grim grayscale palette reserving colors for the hollows, the occasional child you come across to add an extra sense of innocence, and, in stark contrast, the vibrant red of all the spilled blood around the ruins of the decimated hermit country. In the dungeon section later on, I was up against another hollow, and this time green, cube-like static coming from its core appeared to represent terror, according to a book I found lying in a ransacked area outside the dungeon before I went in. You'll need to notice this stuff on your own, though. Nobody pointed it out, there wasn't a quest for it leading me to a character who told me to watch out and pay attention for colors, but it's something I noticed myself and began to connect dots back to as I progressed.
Hell is waiting to unravel the rest of this mystery.
That's the thing with Hellblade, though. It wants you to figure out the mysteries and dive as deep into its eerie hellscape as you want. And luckily for me, I love this kind of thing, so I'll be diving in pretty deep. I played the demo at the beginning of May and haven't gotten the game out of my head in the week since, running through what I remember, looking to see if hindsight adds insight. I even kept my notes to write this preview weeks later, sitting here in my office like the Pepe Sylvia meme from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I conferred with the bulleted notes I took on my phone during Jacques-Belletête's preamble. I looked back through the 2 notebook pages from my 3 hours going hands-on with the game, full of scribblings like 3 special forest graves, oh god, and half of a weapons locker security code that I found in a truck. I flipped through the mood booklet of information and imagery that Rogue Factor gave us about their game. I clicked through B-roll footage they sent from the demo. I scoured their PR spiel about the title from before I went to play it myself. I re-listened to the audio recording of my interview with the 3 members of the Rogue Factor team after the demo, and I still feel like I'm barely scraping the surface. If you're also looking to look the ugliness of humanity square in its terrifyingly hollow face, Hell Is Us will have a demo running on Steam Next Fest between June 2nd and 16th before the full game launches on September 4 on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC.